Lifecom Broadcasting Network Television, LCBN TV, is a Christian and lifestyle multimedia production and broadcast television channel based in Kent in the United Kingdom. LCBN TV UK is available in every home throughout the United Kingdom, broadcasting on Freeview Channel 271, See Love World, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, and on www.lcbntv.com. You can watch LCBN TV wherever you are at any time on LCBN TV app, available on Apple Store and Google Play. LCBN TV is redefining the way television is and leading the way into a new, exciting era of credible broadcasting. LCBN TV, just in time.
Hello and welcome to Life in Focus with me, your host, Stephen Akinsanya. On this show, we're going to be exploring again the issue of youth violence, the link of youth culture to knife violence. The late, great Desmond Tutu said there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. Perhaps they've always been falling in, and we are more aware of what's happening with young people because of the advent of social media and our ability to tune into things that we witness of a click of a switch or a button on a phone or a computer. But there have been some worrying trends recently, which many people, perhaps not of that world, not understanding what's going on, have been horrified by. I want to explore that with my guests this evening. Joining me, first of all, Victoria Oluwajobi is a youth advocate and one of the leading voices at Voices Against the Blade, a youth-led movement committed to educating and empowering young people to prevent knife crime at its root. Victoria recently completed her A-levels at Shooters Hill Sixth Form College, now on a gap year, and she's pursuing a career path in the legal profession. I have to admit that she is one of my mentees. I came across her when I visited Shooters Hill College to speak to the students, and I was impressed by her approach and her thoughts about youth violence and how we might tackle this very serious issue. She's passionate about identity, faith, and purpose, and is dedicating her work to transforming the culture surrounding youth violence through education, awareness, and community collaboration. Her mission is to ensure young people discover who they are before the streets attempt to tell them otherwise. Victoria, welcome to Life in Focus. You're most welcome. My second guest is Nana Agyeman. After gaining over 15 years experience in the welfare to work and employment consultancy industry, Nana established Access UK to maximize the employment, training and career opportunities of young Black and minority ethnic men and women who account for a disproportionately higher level of not in education, employment or training in the UK. That's 1 out of every 2 unemployed. The aim of Access is to achieve objectives through the implementation of tailored employment, enterprise and careers advisory services that recognizes and understands the barriers which specifically affect this marginalized group in British society. Access UK also provides solutions for young youth offenders and delivers gang mediation services throughout BME communities across London and the entire UK. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome.
Right, so look, let's get into this. I think Nana, you've been a guest on the show before, and we had a part 1 where we were talking about youth culture and what that actually means, what it looks like, and I think the recent showing of a video of students at Leicester University has got everybody alarmed and concerned about how can my child not be safe in an academic environment where they're supposed to be studying? How has this happened? I don't know what the position is in terms of people being arrested. I don't know any names, so we can talk.
There's been arrests. There's been arrests. Someone sent me something today, which I think, yeah, they've been arrests.
Right. Well, I'm sure those arrests have come as a result of whoever it was filming and posting it on social media. Something I just can't understand. But let's get into this as a starting point. People are alarmed and shocked by what they've seen. But has it always been there? Let me ask you, Nana, because I'll come to Victoria. But Nana, are we just shocked because we're seeing it through the lens of social media on our phones and on platforms?
100%. Obviously, these, like me and you've discussed before, it's always been there, but it was never captured on camera. Yeah. So you got this device that everybody's got, young people, old people, all else in between, and they can instantaneously film something and share it. So this is where the shock value comes from. It doesn't mean that it hasn't always been there. The shock, it's just you've got a way of capturing that image or footage and sharing it.
Going behind that, though, what's alarming is the fact that a young person is willing to use that kind of abhorrent violence on another student, being filmed doing it. I'm trying to understand the mindset of a person who's prepared to do that. Victoria, you've seen the video, and I know you've commented on your platform about it. As a young person, when you see that, what do you think is going on?
Well, I believe the first thing is what's going through the mind of someone who is perpetrating that kind of action. And in this case, the person that was named supposedly to be Trickster, we don't really know if that's him. The facts are not clear yet. But in my mind, I was thinking, why would he do that? Because many people are looking at the surface, or he's using a belt on his students. But the question is, what is going on in his mind? How did he get to that stage? And before that even happened, I talked about Axel as well. From being a 9-year-old to the 17-year-old who stabbed 3 girls, there must have been something that happened between him being a BBC star actor and then to that person now stabbing 3 girls. So we have to look at what has happened between those 2 stages. And so what came to my mind was young people believe in a system that is meant to protect them. But when the system that is meant to protect them has failed them, where else do we expect them to turn to? And when we look at the causes of knife crime and youth violence today, it's, broken homes, we see different examples, peer pressure, and all sorts of things. And the shutting down of youth centers ultimately. Very recently, I was speaking to a young person as well, and we're talking about this knife issue. And he said, knife crime can never change. And I was like, why is that? You're saying that because you know something I don't know. And I was very open to his ideas. And he said when he was young, growing up, there used to be youth centers. There used to be places where young kids can go to after school if mom and dad is not at home. They've gone to work, working 3 jobs just to fend for them. And so he was like, but after a while, all of those youth centers were shut down. So where do you expect us to go? And it's like the government doesn't care anymore. And so they are left to just people who would take advantage of them. We see young people being groomed as little as 9-year-olds. And so I just think we need to look at the roots of it and not just the surface. Like you said, we need to go upstream and find out why they are falling in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about going upstream and why they're falling in, we live in a society now where people are frustrated, so a lot of people don't care about what's happening upstream. They're dealing with the here and now, and a lot of people, I've read a lot of comments based on that video, and a lot of people are talking about how people should be punished and people should be locked away. We're not tough enough. But I think time has taught us that we can be punitive and we can look to punish young people, but there has to be a point where we do have to go back to the beginning and say tougher sentences won't work. What is going on with a certain section of young people? What has always gone on with a certain section of young people, and how do we challenge these issues that then play out with the sort of things that we see on that video? And Nana, we talked about youth culture, and youth culture is an interesting concept, which I'm going to ask you about in a moment. But it, as I understand it, it includes sort of shared values, styles, music, slang, online identities. Most of it's harmless. I mean, even as a young man growing up in the 70s, we had a sort of youth culture. But certain subcultures can normalize sort of risk-taking, glorifying violence. When we talk about this youth culture, can you try and articulate what that means and how it sort of interrelates to the youth violence that we're seeing?
I think you summed it up quite well, Stephen. You really summed it quite well. It's a set of norms, belief systems, philosophies, ideals, fashion, and so forth. That's shared by a group of people of particular age. Now, going back to the point you made a bit earlier about people saying that they want something done here and now, etc., etc. I don't know if you remember. You remember this, Stephen. Cressida Dick, the former police commissioner, made a very clear statement. She said, "We cannot police our way out of knife crime."
She said that, yes.
Yeah, we cannot police our way. So in other words, those people that think that you're gonna kind of, if you punish them hard enough, if you do X, Y, Z, it's gonna stop it. They don't understand that this is driven by a particular mindset. It's a mindset challenge, and it's a mindset that has to be addressed at a very early stage, not when they're leaving primary school to go to secondary school. I'm talking about in primary school at the earliest time, because the data shows that there's something happens between the movement from primary school to secondary school, where a lot of these young children, it goes left, right, and they can't figure out exactly what it is. We in the sector kind of, we've got ideas as to how that happens within a particular environment. But the point is, it shows you that if we can engage young people and break the cycle early, we can then have a much better idea what they'll turn out to be. But leaving it to the point where they're of a certain age where a lot of their ideas are kind of entrenched, it becomes much harder to steer them away back into the right pathway. So that whole kind of reactive attitude, it doesn't make sense. And the police commissioner confirmed it. But social media, again, going back to what point you made about, there's always been youth culture, etc. There was never a platform like now where it showcases that youth culture. So in other words, you could be in Ghana, you could be in Nigeria, you could be in Philippines, and you see somebody that looks like somebody you saw in Tottenham just the other day, dressed a certain particular way, wearing particular clothing, speaking a certain way, because there's no barriers now. The barriers have been completely demolished through social media. Right? So you have somebody in Nigeria speaking like they're living in LA. They've never been to LA in their life. Do you understand? So that's the difference. The key difference is the platform has eliminated all geographical barriers. It's become a uniform kind of ideal of fashion, attitude, philosophy, etc. And it transcends all borders.
Victoria, you're younger than both of us, and we talk about youth culture. Are there any particular aspects of youth culture today that you think help protect young people, and which aspects may increase the risk of violence? And I'm actually talking about, if we talk about fashion, for example, everyone wants to look like they're a multimillionaire, whether you're 12, 15, or 25. A lot of it's influenced by what you see on social media. I guess you want to call it the bling bling culture. How does that, in your mind, impact the increased risk of violence?
Well, youth culture for me is something that young people today have generally adopted. And I believe that when it comes to fashion on its own, it has become where it starts from. It, like Nana said, is a place of mindset, is a place of lack of identity. But one thing I also believe is that young people have this void in them that they are trying to fill. And when I was thinking about it, it's like this void is a superpower, is something that is meant to propel them towards a bright future. But there is something lacking. They can't find the right leaders to lead them along that path. I was listening to the previous podcast you had with Nana as well, and it was saying how Andrew Tate is, we're talking about Andrew Tate and how he's the leading voice in masculinity now. Like young boys are literally looking up to him as the role model, as the ideal person for the kind of lives that they should pursue. But then the question was asked, who is the positive alternative to Andrew Tate that they can look at and say, actually, this is the life I want to have? And so Gen Z today, which is the youth of today, aged 13 to 28, we are the hungry generation. We want something more. And when I think about a 13-year-old that is, trying to meet his needs and that of his family, like he knows maybe from a single parent household, his mom is working 3 jobs and is like, to himself, Brandon, you cannot keep watching your mom suffer this way. You have to do something. So the nearest place is where they go to. And that's the life that they see around them. Whatever is closer to them is what they embrace first. Something that can quickly fill that void. And that is why gangs and county lines are the quickest solution for them. But I think one thing that would help to tackle this is if we can put the real models, great role models, also in close proximity to them, because we know what is good. I believe there's no human being on earth that doesn't know the difference between good and evil. And I've also read stories of many of them that want out, they want to live that lifestyle, but there is no other way. So that is why with Access UK as well, and also VATB, the approach is changing their mindset and helping them to see that there are actually other opportunities, there are other ways to, light that fire in you to fulfill the destiny and have that, good life that you want. It's not always supposed to be all about gangs and the ends.
Wow. Well said, Victoria. I mean, Nana, I read some comments. Are you familiar with Sheldon Thomas?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I don't know if you read Sheldon's comments on this particular issue, and he was saying, look, this kind of behavior has been going on even from the 70s and 80s, and he basically was saying, look, in our community, in the Black community, we need to own a lot of things that are going wrong in our community. And this isn't to say that it's only unique to our community, but I think he was speaking from the Black perspective. And he was saying that a lot of these issues that we're seeing is because Black men have not stepped up. And that's why a lot of these young boys have gone off the rails, and they've gone off the rails before, well before now. It's just, as you say, it's captured on social media. I want to get your take on that.
No, it's a valid point. I think we have to be very careful where we try to racialize these things. I'm a big on this because if the data always says something else. I mean, what's interesting, the point I want to make was that as far as I saw in the video, most of the victims were Black. Okay? The perpetrators were Black.
Yeah.
So we always talk about the perpetrators, but where were the victims? At university. So those young people in our community that are doing what they're supposed to do, go through education system, law abiding, and so forth, they never get the light. They represent the majority.
Yeah.
They represent absolutely the majority in the community, but the small minority who are committing the bulk of the crime get all the notoriety, get all the attention on them. So it ends up skewing what actually is going on out there. Yeah. But
Yeah.
if you looked at it statistically,
Mm.
there'll be more, especially the video, there's more young black people at university than there were of the two, you know, the two perpetrators. So I think we have to be very careful with that. But essentially, but I agree in the sense that we do need to step up. There need to be more visible role models, like Victoria was alluded to, because you will invariably steer towards something that you see. Seeing is believing. If your ideal of success is in your environment, and the ideal of success is somebody who's up to no good, that's what you're going to gravitate towards. So we need to see more people like yourself, more people like Victoria, more people that are, come from all walks of life that are doing very, very well, that are visible within the community. So the young people can have, can make an informed kind of decision, if you may. Yeah. So they can see that there's more than one way to become successful. But once they're in that kind of tunnel vision where they think that you can only become successful by being a footballer, being a rapper or a musician or a criminal, then we're in trouble. We're in trouble because we move around professional circles. There's lots of successful black people, professionals out there. But the unfortunate thing is that a lot of people that are successful, their whole ideal is that if I come from a certain environment and I'm successful and I come out of that environment, that's it. That's me done. Charge it to the game. I'm out of here. I'm living in the suburbs, and it's not my problem. We need to be invested in the communities that look like us. We need to be invested. We've got no choice. We can't then complain that our young person that we've sent to university is being robbed or being attacked by somebody from the same environments that we come from. Yeah, it's all interrelated. There's no separation. It's all interrelated. Eliane Andam,
Yeah.
young lady that got stabbed in the neck and killed.
Yeah.
She was going to a private school, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in the parents' eyes, our daughter's is privately educated. They may think that they're separate. They're kind of separate from all the craziness that's going on out there. But inevitably, she was a victim of somebody from a completely different background. Yeah. So there's an interrelationship there that we need to be aware of. That there's very little separation. Unless you're living in an island by yourself, we have to look out for each other. We have to be aware that that young child that comes from a broken home can potentially be the person that takes your child's life. And we've already seen that in the video, a clear example of this, where young people going to university, they're doing the right things, but yet somebody's infiltrated that university, come in onto their campus and done that to them. So I think that's what we have to understand in the relationship. It's not as clear cut as it was before.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I mean, Victoria, I sort of read and say all the facts are not clear. You most probably are on top of them more than I am, but I understand that part of what was orchestrated there was at the hands of a young female, a woman, a girl. From a female perspective, what do you say about the mindset of a young woman who would facilitate that? I don't know if it was her who was filming what was going on, but what kind of mindset does a young girl have to to actually be in the company of those kind of individuals and then film what's happening? What do you say about that?
Well, I think the kind of mindset that such a lady would have is informed majorly by our environment. There's this quote that you are some of the top 5 people you spend the most of your time with. So it's like if she has always been in an environment where girls would just always want to be around guys, always just want to live this lavish, flamboyant lifestyle, she wouldn't know the difference. And when it comes back all to the knowledge that they have and the insight that they have, which is why I also appreciate the work you're doing with going to schools and making young people understand the consequences and the meaning of what they're doing. Many of them don't know it is bad. Many of them don't understand the consequences. I once read that most of the perpetrators of this knife crime actually think they are in a game. Some of them think that they are still playing games, right? And most of them would be like, oh, I'm just stabbing him, but I hope he won't die. Like, just for fun, just to get this approval from their peers. So I believe that she did that majorly for the show, just to show that, oh, this school person, or this is what is school. This is, again, popular culture. This is widely accepted among my peers. So this is what I would do just to earn the respect. But I also think that it also comes to leadership. Who is leading such a lady? What example is she looking up to? And this is controversial, but where is her mom? Where is her dad? Like, what kind of culture did she grow up around? So that's why I wouldn't just blame young people, although we should be held responsible for our actions, but also we should the environment and the mindsets that they have grown up with should also be taken into account.
Because you know, something's. I think, as Nana observes, this perhaps has always been around. It's just that we see these things being played out now through the lens of a phone. But something's going horribly wrong with a certain section. I'm not going to say all young people, because that would be foolish. With a certain section of young people who, for some reason, have lost their way, and I'm desperate to try and find out how we've got there. And as I said at the top of the show, to go upstream, because we can have these conversations week in, week out, year in, year out, but until we actually get into the minds of these young people and go right back to the beginning, I don't want it to be a situation where it's self-perpetuating. So there's another group of young people who are following up, because these youngsters are going to grow into adults. They're going to become parents. With the mindsets that they've got, they're going to have children. Are they going to have children who they then raise with that same mindset? And these are the issues that we as a community, and I'm not just talking we as a Black community, but we as a community of people in a modern day society, so-called, need to start having these conversations and actually having frank conversations about what is happening in a so-called modern society. You know, when I talk about social media and the influence of social media, there are things that come to mind when we talk about youth culture and how it interrelates with youth violence. And I want to see if you'll agree with me. Look, social media is great for a lot of things. But what I notice now when I go on a lot of the platforms, and I'll give you an example. So recently, I don't know if you've seen my video about Schedule 21, which is the video where I talk about getting a minimum term of 25 years as part of a life sentence if you carry a knife to a scene. And I recorded that video because of an experience I had with a young man having represented him. I put that video out on social media and I put it on TikTok. And I read a lot of the comments. And a lot of young people, I don't know who they were, but a lot of young men thought it was really funny, didn't think it would apply to them. And my one comment was, you know, it's funny until it's not funny. And I can tell you, I've sat down with enough young men who in the moment carried a knife, stabbed someone, sometimes fatally wounding them. And I've been with them when they've got that life sentence and they're thinking, oh man, this isn't a video game. This is 25 years of my life, and it's all of it. And it's not just 25 years, it actually could be 30 or more, because I'm now in the system and the system will decide when I get released. And I'm thinking to myself, how does a young person, how does their mind work that they're not even fearful of getting those kind of sentences? Is their life so bad? And then when I think about social media and the negative parts, you look at videos on TikTok where people are in constant conflict, so it amplifies conflict. You know, minor arguments, online beef, humiliation, call-outs. Then you've got what I call performative pressure. So young people feel that they must prove themselves online. Then you've got normalizing weapons, where people are openly carrying weapons, posing with weapons. You know, I don't want to get into the drill music argument. Look, it's an art form, but there are clearly some videos where people are glorifying violence, violent imagery, and it desensitizes some young people. Then you have the spreading of misinformation, rumors or threats to other groups of young people. And then you've got the rewards of risky behavior. You know, people do things for likes and views. I mean, I was contacted recently, I can't go into the detail, of a young person who did something absolutely crazy for likes, just for likes, to get it on social media. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I want to just hear from both of you about the impact of social media, and is there something we need to do in terms of social media, or has that ship sailed? Is there nothing that we can do about social media and its impact on young people? Dana, do you want to start off with that?
Yeah, I think you summed it up quite beautifully, Stephen. I think you summed it up really, really well. I mean, I think the last time we spoke, I compared it to digital crack. Yeah, digital crack is crack cocaine in digital form. This is how addictive social media is, especially to young people, young minds, impressionable minds. Whereby I saw a video the other day, someone sent me a video, and I don't know how accurate it is, but in the video, there's a lady that's walking in her living room. Her living room's been completely destroyed by her 13-year-old son, I believe. Yeah, TV smashed, table smashed, everything, simply because she took the phone away from the young person as punishment for something, and the young person went berserk. Now, that's because you've been taken away from your phone and social media. That's how you react. So that just tells you how powerful it is. It's almost like, I don't know, taking drugs from somebody who's an addict. Who's almost dependent on that for the next hit, and you've taken it. And you know, there's tests that have been done on dopamines, wherever it is, and how the social media kind of can lift that, or accentuate it, or basically it can crash it as well. So there's lots of clever people that have designed this platform that's highly, highly addictive, right? To the point where people have committed suicide if they've lost a certain amount of followers, and this is the state we've got to. Yeah. So for me, where you've got countries, I think in Scandinavia, Australia, etc., that are putting limitations on young people's access to it, I think that's a fantastic idea. And as parents, we need to monitor what our young people are digesting on these platforms, because it shapes their mind. Now, going back to the point we made earlier about the young lady in the university who's been linked with the perpetrators, we have to understand there's always been a fascination with the bad boys. Okay, that's always been there. Yeah, the local strong man, the protector, the bad boy, wherever you want to call it, there's always been a fascination there. So even if you could come from a good home, you're still going to be susceptible to that. Don't think because somebody comes from a good home, they're educated, they're not going to be attracted by that. Yeah, they're not going to be attracted by it. If you look at the typical profile of somebody that'll buy particular music, whatever, it's not what you would assume. It's not what you assume. So there's popular culture that permeates all aspects of society. It doesn't matter whether you're supposed upper class, lower class, wherever it is there, and people are consuming it. You know, they consume it on a mass. A good example of this is our platform. Okay, we've got a platform where we've tested it out. We deal with a lot of serious topics. Okay, serious issues, and we'll post something. You know, a motivational post, jobs, opportunities, etc., etc. And on a Friday, we have a Fun Friday post. I guarantee you, the Fun Friday post will get more likes, more views, more attention than all the seriousness that we posted up through the week. Okay, facts. You know, we can print the data, and that tells you that people they love bad news. They love, you know, I don't know whether it's a form of relief or whether it is from the seriousness of real life, or kind of just to get away from everything else. But it's clear that they're more attracted to these posts than the proper stuff that we post in any given week.
Yeah.
So that gives you a little inkling into the mindset that's out there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a heavy investment on dumbing people down. Yeah. We're going from the adults all the way to children. There's a heavy investment in kind of entertainment and TV, wherever else, where it really doesn't add any value to your life. Really, when you assess it, it doesn't have any real value. You know, we spend a lot of time watching these things, and that time could be readily invested in you yourself as a person or whatever else you're doing. But it's very attractive. It's very attractive, and it's very influential. It's very influential as well.
Yeah, I mean, Victoria, just following on from what Nana said there, I mean, I think he makes a really good point. There is so much material on social media platforms that's vying for the attention of a young person, when really, you know, time is so precious to all of us. I think sometimes we think we've got all the time in the world, and we really don't. And the time that they could use to invest in themselves has been taken by this addiction to social media with so many negative influences. So I wanted to ask you, you know, what positive alternatives to sort of violence-based identity could we amplify on social media for young people? I think Nana makes a really interesting point. And, you know, we're at a point now where we need to start being really, really honest about where we are, because the future doesn't look good if we don't start really drilling down on this stuff.
Yeah, so I agree with everything Nana said. Like, the algorithm is designed to promote violence, to promote extremist thoughts. That's just what it's there for. But one thing I also believe is that darkness exists as a result of the absence of light. So if there are people who know the truth, if there are people who have the right values, who hold the right knowledge and the right mindset, they should also be going on social media. It might and possibly will take them twice as long to get to the audience that someone who is promoting violence would get, but I think it's necessary that the work begins now, because knife crime is not just an identity issue, it's not just a young person's issue, it's a community issue. It affects everyone across generations. And so if we don't start talking now, then violence will just keep being promoted. I heard the story of a young lady who was speaking to a motivational speaker, and she was like, I want to start learning how to speak now. And it was like, what happened? Why the interest all of a sudden? And she said there is a young person that she's very close to who shot another young person dead. And she said that, I wish if all this time I had been speaking to him, I had been letting him know who he is, the value of his life and all that. If I had gotten into his ears early on, that wouldn't have happened. And so the man said that every single person needs to keep reminding young people of the value of their lives, the preciousness of their gifts and talents, and the short time they are allotted on earth. So if we don't keep talking about this message that this is who you are, I'm a Christian, it definitely would come out. In
Mm,
God, this is who God created you to be, then
mm,
they will just keep wasting their lives because they need to know that they have a purpose for which they are here. There's this narrative I have that each and every one of us is one of one. What you can do, sir, as Barrister Stephen, I cannot do. What Nana can do as Nana, I cannot do. And what I can do, nobody else can do. So that is how God made us. And in each and every one of us is a part of God that we have not seen and if we have not experienced. And I was listening to Sarah Jakes, and she said that the reason why the world is the way it is today is because people are not living up to their potential. If everyone lives up to their potential, the world would definitely be much better than it is. So we just need to keep spreading the positive message. It would take time, but we need to keep doing it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with you, and as I said, part of my frustration is the number of young people I see being, if not killed, and losing their life even before they're 21. They haven't even lived. The number of young people who are being incarcerated. And on the point you make, both of you, I just don't understand it. Nana referred to Fun Friday and the serious stuff in the earlier part of the week, which is going to edify you and bring you, bring you something positive in your life. Similarly, on social media platforms, I've posted videos about joint enterprise where I talk about joint enterprise and the impact it has from a criminal law perspective for young people. And you're lucky to get 100 people liking it, but show a video of people being chased in the street or stabbed or doing something foolish, and it runs into the thousands.
Yeah.
And I'm asking myself, what have we become? What is going on here? And a lot of these young people do not realize. I can hark back to when I was 18 years old. Time doesn't stand still. And if you're blessed enough, you'll live to an old age. But I'm asking myself, are you living in the moment without any thought to 10 years down the line? Don't people think that way? I remember as a young boy, my late dad asking me, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? And he asked me that at 17, and he asked me again at 27. And he finally asked me, I think, just before my 36th birthday, and sadly, he couldn't ask the question again. When I think about what I'm seeing played out on social media in this subsection of youth culture, I'm asking, is the future or is the perspective of their lives so bleak that they don't even think about tomorrow? I mean, Nana, do we, I don't really want to talk about knife violence because I've had this conversation so many times that I'm tired. I'm looking for something different that takes a young person to, as Victoria says, who they're supposed to be. And that's why I call my platform Life in Focus and my charity Life of Focus. We have to get our young people to start living lives of focus. Nana, how do we get there, man?
You're really on point today. You're really on point tonight. You're summing up beautifully. The point is, and I think it was touched on by Victoria earlier. The point is, we need to have a powerful counter narrative. Yeah, that's what the real issue. The space is dominated by the negative. Yeah, it's dominated by those that have up to no good, and those that are selling very destructive lifestyles. So, where are the voices that are countering that? Where are the voices? Hopefully next year we're going to launch a podcast on highlighting successes within our community that people don't know about. So these are ordinary people that have come from quote unquote nothing and have elevated to heights from all walks of life. Yeah. And that's what we should launch it this year, but for whatever reason we didn't get a chance to bring it out. But we're just going to launch a series of we're going to have a series of interviews specifically around what people do to earn a living, and they look like just me and you. You know, and that's basically to challenge this narrative that you can only make money or become successful from doing nonsense. Yeah, I mean, look, let's go back to the incident in the university. You had the perpetrators forcing the victims to transfer money, wire money from one account to their account. Okay, now how retarded is that? I mean, you're a barrister. I mean, is that smart? So there's a digital footprint of somebody making a transaction from you to you, which is there. Okay,
Yeah.
so that shows you're not a very good criminal. Yeah. Then also you're filming what you're doing. It's on camera again,
Yeah.
evidence.
On
So
social media.
on social media. So I'm not saying that to say be a smarter criminal. All I'm saying is these are the low levels that we're dealing with. So if someone could come up with a counter narrative that is just as attractive, you know, like on our last discussion, I think I mentioned Dean Forbes, who I think is from Lewisham originally, right? A young man that was even homeless at one point in his life. Now he's a billionaire. Okay, he's a tech billionaire. So he's come from a certain environment, he's grafted, and now he's a billionaire. So the point is, if Dean can do it, maybe you can do it. But if you don't know Dean's story, all you know is about 50 Cent and Max B and whatever else, or whatever local driller that you know, then you're gonna have a very skewed kind of perception of what success is and how you gain success. Because to me, what those young people done is an embarrassment first and foremost. It's absolutely embarrassing. You know, absolutely embarrassing, because maybe they don't know no better. They are young people out there that are making that money that they made from the nonsense they've done in a day, 12 grand in a day from tech, emerging tech, and they just, because they're so tech savvy, they're making more money than they can spend. Right? But if you don't know the pathway how to do that, then you're gonna be a one-trick pony. You're just gonna assume, because that's all you see. Going back to again what Victoria said. See what you are, what you see. You know, so if you all you see is negativity, there is no counter narrative. There's nothing there. You know, I think that's what we need to focus on. We need to get our young people into clubs, you know, into Saturday schools. We need to get them into kind of learning about their own identity, away from the school system. So this is alternative education, because you don't kill what you love. You know, there was there's a scene in one of the is it Hannibal scene, and there's a very powerful scene where when he kidnaps the young lady, he hesitates to kill her because he forms a bond with her. Okay, so what it basically showing is that it became hard even for a psychopath to kill, because he had formed a kind of relationship with her, so it made it very, very hard for him to do what he actually intended to do. It's the same way with young people. The more they love themselves, the more they understand themselves, and we want to see that person that's on the street that looks like me is not my enemy. Yeah, it's not. He's basically my brother in a sense.
Yeah.
Less likely to commit certain crimes. But if you see yourself as an individual, you're not part of a community, you know, you are going to commit these things. So all that alternative education, all that alternative learning, you know, whether it be the church, whether it's through the mosque, wherever it is, all these things need to be there to give young people grounding. Yeah. To give young people a sense of grounding and a sense of self-love. You know, self-love needs to be promoted, because you don't kill or harm what you love. You're not gonna do it. I think that's what it is. That they need to be plugged into that. The going back to the point that Victoria made about the lack of youth club. That's all part of the process, because this is a hub where young people can go to learn life skills and, you know, communicate with each other in the physical world. Because another thing that we've seen, especially in my industry, is that young people don't know how to communicate. I'm talking about like face-to-face communication in the physical world, because they're so used to getting a device and just tapping away. Okay, So their interpersonal skills becomes non-existent. They go to an interview, they can't make eye contact, they don't even know how to conduct themselves. If they haven't got a device where they're tapping away, where they must, their fingers must have a lot of strength in them, they develop their muscles in their hands, etc. Nothing else is happening. And this is all part of the conditioning, the social conditioning, and that's what we need to teach our young people, how to communicate, how to they need to go back to old values. That's what they need to go back to.
Wow. Well, as I said at the start of the show, I didn't want this to be a discussion just about knife crime, because it's gone way beyond that. And this is why I talked about going back upstream. There are some fundamental issues, fundamental questions that we need to answer, and questions we need to ask about how some of our young people are falling through the cracks and ending up in this position. And Victoria, when we talk about identity, I know your faith plays a really important part of your life journey, and we talk about purpose and destiny and being wonderfully and fearfully made. What roles can schools, youth workers and parents play in challenging this harmful narrative for a lot of young people? And before you answer that, I do want to say and pick up something that Nana said. There are a lot of people on social media platforms who are just hell-bent on being negative, hell-bent on being racist. You make the point, Nana, that those kids who were the victims were university students, their academic halls of learning, doing an undergraduate degree. There are young kids, and I'm going to name that fantastic school. Is it Brampton Manor? Do you know how many come out of that school who go to Oxbridge?
Yeah.
So let's just put that out there. Not all our young people from our community are gangbangers, wannabe, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So I want to put that out there. But for the ones who are not going to Oxbridge or going to any university, I asked the question, Victoria, what role should schools, youth workers and parents play in challenging, these harmful narratives?
I think it comes to what they say, and the attitudes that they give. I was in a meeting with some of my peers. We were having a young commissioners meeting, and it was said by one of them that, in class we used to have this activity, but because in my set it is the popular opinion that the kids in this class don't want to learn, so the teacher, because of that, makes every other person suffer for that reason. They don't give us the full attention we need, they don't give us the full support we need because I'm just in this set. So I believe that every young person needs to be given the same attention, the same care, the same love. We might have it in our minds that, this kid, because of the way they are acting, is of no good, is of no use. But if we don't stay persistent, if we don't keep repeating to them that your life actually has value, they would keep believing that lie. And the attitude and the words that we speak to them would also keep reinforcing whatever it is in their mind. So we need to challenge their mindset. We need to let them know that you might be in this set, but it doesn't mean you can't move up to the next set. I will give you the same level of care, attention, and love I will give to a child that is doing very well. I will give you the same level of support and resources that you need to thrive. So I think society is very polarized today. If you're not doing good, people wouldn't be there for you. But if you are doing good, everyone is just on your side. But it shouldn't be that way. Everyone should be given the same opportunity to thrive.
Thank you, Victoria. No, let me ask you this, because something that comes up a lot when I talk to people like the young man that we saw with the belt, carrying a lot of trauma. He's carrying trauma, and that explains his behavior. And we really need to deal with the issues of the young people carrying all this trauma, which is then played out in the sorts of actions that we see. What do you say about that?
What do I say about the trauma? Or
Yeah. Well, whether that's an excuse, whether it's true that young people carry such trauma that it manifests in a way where they're meting out violence to other people.
absolute facts.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
people that harm people. It's
Yeah.
it's something that we've known for a very long time. You project if you've been a victim of violence, the likelihood that you're going to perpetrate violence. It's a very basic psychology. Also, there's a lot of, when we talk about in particular black youth, there is a lot of suppressed trauma. They're traumatized by the general society. They're traumatized by the environment. They often live in lower socioeconomic backgrounds, so there's a lot of repression there within itself. So there's a lot of things that they have to deal with as young people, and on top of that, the racial element of that as well. So it's a multi-layered, and it's not an excuse; it's a fact. If you look at the data that's out there now, there's almost 1 million NEETs in the UK. Yeah, not in education, employment, or training. Okay, young people that are NEETs, and it's a big priority for the government. Now, what's interesting about that data is that a lot of these young people, for the very first time, are claiming benefits, health-related benefits. So it's through either depression, whether it's mild or extreme, all kinds of mental related illnesses as a base to get benefits. Okay, unprecedented especially since COVID. So that gives you an indication what's happening out there. Yeah, whether it's anxiety, whatever it may be, and that's now increased that level to almost 1 million in terms of unemployment, in economic inactivity. So that gives you a little indication what's going on out there. So it's a big problem. The government now recognizes it. What they do about it, I don't know. I don't know what their strategy is, but it's a fact. The NHS is filled with people that are traumatized. People go in there, young people go into the system with psychosis. Some of it is drug induced. When you're smoking, another kind of something we touched on in our last discussion. When you're smoking skunk and these mind altering drugs, they're very potent. They're literally designed to be highly addictive. And when you're smoking that and you're a young person, it can completely, mess you up. And it happens. You just go look at the data.
Yeah.
But it's promoted as something that's very cool and it's all free. And as I've said on many platforms, when older people are not very kind of au fait with all this stuff, when they start comparing it to normal kind of so-called commercial weed, it's nothing. It's not the same thing. Yes, absolutely not. Don't conflate skunk with what they call as mersh, etc. It's not the same thing. And it is designed a particular way. It's manufactured under lab, and chemicals are put in there to be high. And a lot of young people just look at it as normal, as waking up and maybe eating cornflakes or something, or drinking a cup of tea. But it has very serious consequences on their mindset and their life chances. Very serious.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe the time has flown by so quickly. Victoria, I know that you're a strong advocate, Voices Against the Blade, and you're doing some great work as a young person in that space. But how can we constructively challenge this mindset and culture that we're seeing with some of our young people? Do you have any thoughts on that? I know I do, but what are your thoughts?
I think that I'll go back to the model that this movement was built on before Voices Against the Blade. It was built on a PIO system: prevention, investment, and opportunity. So we need to first be able to prevent, like you said in the beginning, stop drawing them out of the water, find out why they are falling in, and stop them falling in. So The second thing is to invest in them. Not many young people have access to the resources that they want to thrive, but they don't have access to those resources. So we need to create access, invest in them, and also opportunities. Take them to places where they can see beyond where they are. Help them to explore a life beyond the life that they are used to. Let them know it's possible for them to be better than they are right now. And that is why I think it's also important for people from our community as well to be taken into corporate spaces to see that it's not just about rapping, it's not just about being a footballer, but let them know that you can be successful, you can make money doing other things as well. There's a vast amount of opportunities, even with AI and social media today as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, spend a little less time on TikTok and Instagram, and have a look who's on LinkedIn. If you don't know what people are up to who look like you, who maybe went to the same sorts of schools you went to, from the same areas where you grew up, go on LinkedIn and have a look. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm a Croydon boy and I'm proud of it. Grew up in Croydon, went to school in Croydon, still live in the borough of Croydon. Knowledge is power.
But Steve, we have to make those spaces cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? And it's all to do with exposure. Yeah. You have to make it cool. We have to make it as cool as.
But how do we, how do we do that? I mean, you said a moment ago, your posts between Monday and Thursday, the real serious stuff that takes you to the place which gives you longevity, which gives you a future, which has a base. Friday, the nonsense stuff, forgive me for calling it that, or the fun stuff, everybody's on it. How do we change that?
You know what we do psychologically? The Fun Friday is the hook for the real stuff. So when they come onto the platform for the happy-go-lucky things, hopefully some of them will stay on that platform and see, okay, these are the stuff that these guys are doing, and hopefully we retain them. That's basically the psychology behind it. Because it was given to me by a young intern that was working with us about 4 or 5 years ago, and she's like, look, no, we do a lot of heavy stuff. We do a lot of things that are serious. It's a bit heavy. As somebody's working on your platform, your social media presence, how about we kind of lighten a load on a Friday? Initially, I was reluctant. I was thinking, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
And we went with it. But when I saw the results in terms of the likes, etc., I said, okay, cool. This is a way to draw attention to the real stuff. So that's where we just use it as a mechanism to do it. Also, I don't think enough attention is given to those that are doing the right things. I really don't.
You're right.
And I think it's incumbent of people that are in the proper spaces to push the narrative. Like I said, next year, hopefully, God willing, that we start off the podcast and we're going to highlight people that, like I said, look like us, who are highly successful from all walks of life, and giving them the light. So that my thing is, if one young person sees that and they think, you know what, I never thought about pursuing a career in AI, or pursuing a career in the city, or pursuing a career as in the music industry, but as a writer, or someone who's a producer. Now I've seen it. Now I've heard this person's story. I'm inspired now to do it. That's what basically we're aiming for. We're shedding light on alternative lifestyles.
Yeah.
That they're not privy to.
Yeah.
They don't understand, and opening up that door. Victoria mentioned earlier about Inside Days, where young people go to these corporates and they see a different world. We've been doing this for years. We've been doing it for years. Again, something I mentioned in the last discussion. When you see the transformative power of just giving a young person a suit, for example, when they put on the suit and they put on shoes,
and
you see that it's amazing.
No.
Right? Some of them not interested, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
You see a visible change in how they walk, how they see themselves, all because of a suit.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if somebody in the job center thinks all they can be is a drug dealer, or they just got low expectations of them in schools, in society as a whole. Unless somebody shows them a different, empowers them, it's very, very likely they're going to be stuck in that same pathway. So my role, and lots of people like me in the system, is to show them alternatives. Is to show that being kind of like interested in education, being very focused, diligent, academic is cool. It's not uncool to be educated and smart. Not at all. Yesterday I was at Birkbeck University for my friend's graduation. Right? I think he was expelled from school when he was I don't think he even finished his GCSEs. Now he's a graduate. Now he's studying for his masters and he wants to eventually become a doctor in his field.
Wow.
And he was leading in tears with his children because he never saw himself 5 years ago in this position that he's in now. Okay, but you have to have positive people around you. Again, Victoria mentioned earlier about you are the sum total of at least the 5 people you commonly spend your time with. It's facts. It's facts.
Yeah.
So it's all about teaching young people that you are the company you keep, and them fully understanding that and elevating them to maximize their potential.
Thanks, Nana. Victoria, closing remarks. I'm well over time, but I want to get your closing remarks.
I'll just say that all hands need to be on deck for change to happen. And I think that change would happen if we don't try to abolish what we have, but we actually use it to be able to propel the change faster. For example, social media is here, it's not going away. AI is here, it's not going away. So we need to begin to use those tools to ensure that change happens. And I also want to encourage every one of us that all hope is not lost for our generation. All hope is not lost because we can see examples of young people who are also rising as well to create a change. And thank God we have leaders as well like you and Nana helping to make this happen. So yeah, it might be a long journey, but we'll get there in the end.
And on that positive note,
Fantastic.
I want to thank, that's fantastic, Victoria. I want to thank both of you for having an honest, frank conversation about something that we're all passionate about. I want to thank Victoria and Nana again for coming on Life in Focus. And, I think we really need to, as Victoria has just said, we need to build critical digital literacy. Social media is not going anywhere. AI is not going anywhere, but we have to teach our young people how to use it for good. We need to provide those safe spaces and youth-led projects and support the ones that are doing the hard work already. I think we have to do something about reframing masculinity and status amongst many of our young men, because many of our young men do not understand what being a real man actually is. I think we need to support the at-risk young people much earlier than we do, because there are many young people who are at risk through all sorts of trauma, and we need to deal with that. And we also need to use social media positively, because it can be used in a positive way rather than posting videos of wanton violence. And then this whole thing that we talk about, the village raising the child and community, well, let's see it in action, because it's only through a community-centered approach that I believe we can support those young people who perhaps have lost their way or don't feel there is a way ahead of them. And as Nana says, let's change the narrative and support and promote the young people who are doing the right thing, who are excelling, who are succeeding, who are dreaming big. And they far outweigh those who are making the headlines, portraying an image of our community particularly, which is not true. On that note, I want to thank Victoria. I want to thank Nana. You've been watching Life in Focus with me, your host, Stephen Akinsanya, barrister at law. Let's all try and help these young people live lives of focus. I'll see you next time. God bless.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.